How are you? This is Donnie Schwartz from Passover Listings. We are super excited to dive in today. We have two special guests joining us today from two amazing programs that have been around for a long time who can really dig into the inside scoop. This is session 3 of the inside scoop of what it means to be on a Passover program and all the nuts and bolts that around Passover programs. We will be joined with us very shortly with Robert Fruscher from Leisure Time Tours and Bruce Backman from Pesach in the southeast, northeast. And so there we go. That was quick. We got Robert on the line. We're just waiting for Bruce to jump on, and then we can get started. And there we go. I think this was the easiest, fastest way that we were able to jump on and get going. So thanks for jumping on, Bruce and Robert. Can you guys hear me first and foremost?
Yes. Bruce, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just have allergies.
Okay.
Bruce, you need a hairbrush.
I know that. I'm just looking.
Okay, so Bruce. Okay, so while Bruce is getting ready, I'm gonna tell everybody what we are talking about today. So, in the past, session 1, we spoke about understanding the market, how Pesach programs work, and who attends. Last week, we spoke about the guest experience, what life actually looks like at a program. Today is session 3, and we're going to talk about operations and business behind the scenes of running a program. Who better to speak to than two premier operators in the industry for many, many years? Robert Fruscher from Leisure Time Tours, Bruce Backman from Pesach in the South and Northeast. And we're going to talk about a handful of things: operator economics and margins. We're going to talk about staffing a program, hotel negotiations, insurance cancellations, and venue selection, and how programs differentiate ourselves. So first topic I want to dive in with both of you guys are operator economics and margins. I want to talk about room blocks. I want to talk about F&B minimums, break-even thresholds, risk exposure. When you guys are thinking about running a program, whether it's a first-year program, a first-year hotel program, maybe you guys, this is a historical program you want to run for the next year, right? How do you think about the operator economics around this and your margins? What are the types of things you think about? We'll give it to Robert first, and then Bruce jump in after.
Please.
What do I think about when we look at economics? So obviously, it's all in the deal. You can't. There can be no profit margin if you're paying ridiculous sums to the hotel. And in today's day and age, with the U.S. hotels especially, they know how to charge. And when I say that, it's they want high room rate numbers, they want high meeting space, rental fees, and then they want high labor charges. So everything is on the high end. And once you put this all together, it's an expensive package. Now there's expensive, and then you have to be able to know your numbers well. And keep in mind when you talk about the hotel numbers, that's only one piece of the pie.
Yeah. So
Obviously,
what if you were to break it down high level before we go into too much detail here? What are the core components, right? When you're looking at economics, you said hotel is one piece. What are some major pieces that come into play here around economics when you look at it, right? Because you need to make sure your margins are good. And what are the margins out there? People always ask, what are the margins? Is that something you can divulge? But I question, what are the major pieces of really understanding you're going to make money from an operator standpoint?
well, before you can even get to, if you can make money as an operator standpoint, the pieces of the puzzle obviously are room rate, meeting room rental, labor. This is all from the hotel side. Labor, and then you have hotels that are charging displacement charges. What's a displacement charge? That is, the hotel is not earning F&B revenue, over these 2 week periods. So they want a number on that. They want a big number on that. So there's a lot of, every hotel deal, Donnie, is different. There are hotels that charge you extra for housekeeping because they have to hire extra housekeepers because we're there for 10 days and you have, three people or whatever it is on a per room basis. The housekeepers have to spend more time there. They could hit you with a $50,000 to $100,000 bill for extra housekeeping. So none of these numbers are small numbers. So you have to be very careful with what the deal is.
Yeah,
The
Bruce.
the business, you can get killed in the deal. I see a lot of other guys in the industry sometimes send me their contracts to look at. Robert is an expert in contracts. He's not just doing one like me. He's doing 5 and 6 some years. So he knows the in hotels. Obviously, a hotel, it's a luxury hotel. The fees for some stuff are going to be higher than other places, and the price is reflects that. But the real challenge, in my mind, the room rate's the least of it. High room rate's the end, but once you get past room rate, it's the extras that'll kill you every time.
What are
It's
the
the
extras?
it's the
What
stuff
are
you
the
can't
extras?
plan on.
What are some of the extras? Like
The
examples.
hotel charges you for electric. The hotel
Uh,
charges you for engineering of things and then it's not uniform. I always say that I'm doing this so many years. I've done so many contracts, and I still can't figure out what to do. Like
mm,
I'm always getting surprised. Some
mm-hmm,
hotels charge me for garbage disposal. Some
mm-hmm,
don't. Some hotels, and it's something that I'll ask. And then
mm-hmm,
the worst thing that happens in the industry to me, which you can never really budget for, is the sales manager you booked with isn't always the salesperson you're dealing with when you're doing the event. And then the hotel
mm-hmm.
changes hands, which happened to me this year. A new management company, new rules, new protocols. They read the contract with a fine tooth comb. They found opportunities to hit me up for stuff that I can tell you for certain I was told was never going to ever be charged and would be absurd. And all of a sudden they're new. And what am I going to do? You fight, you make your complaints, you show them emails. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But you
Mm-hmm.
have to get along with these people. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to get quoted, but I always say that making a Pesach program with a hotel is like two people who have a child and they have to make it work, but really they don't really like each other all that much. And they're just doing it for the kids. The hotel needs the money, the hotel needs the money, and I need the place. And then the
Mm-hmm.
kids are the guests. And
Mm-hmm.
neither of us want to piss off or anger the guests. That said, when it comes down to it, when no one's in the room, we don't really care much for each other.
Mm-hmm.
These hotels hate people like me. The sales lady, the person
Well,
who
then why,
handles my
why
group,
why do they go into
it's a lot of
contract?
work because the salesperson who sells the group never gets operations involved as much as they should because they want
Ah,
the booking for the numbers, and then the
I see.
operations people come in and it's not that they're going to do things to screw you. They have so much extra work to do versus what they normally do if they book
I
a
see.
medical convention. It's a lot of work. I'm
Uh-huh.
calling you at all hours of the night. We're
Yeah.
flipping over your kitchen. You're unloading. You're storing things. It's not a
Yeah.
regular event. Your
Yeah.
staff is displaced. New staff comes in. You don't like how they speak to your staff. They don't
Yeah.
keep the bathrooms. I mean, the list is long. So I
Right.
always say, I tell hotels when I walk in the first day, I say, you have to want me more than I want you, or this isn't going to work.
Wow, that's a great
Like,
idea.
you have to really
So,
need my business. Because
how
if
do
you
you?
don't need my business, this isn't going to end well.
Right. So,
And
so
I don't have lots of bad situations. I'm not saying other guys do or don't, but I really don't.
yeah.
But,
So
that doesn't mean
on
I've
the
never had disputes.
on the break even, like when you guys think about this and you're putting your model together and your business together, and like this is how much, right? What typically is like the break? And I would say also look at this from more holistically versus maybe your program because a lot of programs out there. Break even, right? I hear in the industry today, break even, right, is up to at around 70-80%. The last 20 to 30% of the rooms is where typically the profit comes in for program operators. Is that a true statement for in general across the board, right? On average, Robert.
Listen, again, it really depends on the deal, but you're not far off. Whether it's 65, whether it's 87, it really depends on the deal. And
Uh-huh.
it depends what you're charging. And I always say, people that charge, you know, again, I listen. Bruce doesn't have to deal with this because it's mainly the foreign programs, but like. you see these numbers, Bruce, in Europe, where they're charging, 5,000 euro a person, 4,000. I mean, these numbers don't exist. So,
In
there's
America, it's impossible.
right.
What, Bruce? Why do you think the European programs are a? And this, by the way, this is not one European program, so I will make this a case here that this is the majority of European programs out there charge anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 per couple. Okay, why is that the case in Europe, right? And they can do that, and not in America. Why is that in Europe? What is special about Europe?
There's a few factors in Europe. The first factor is these hotels they're taking are super off season. Europe it runs on a cycle. In the summer, it's untouchable, and then you try to go there in April when no one's there, and you can get it for 70 or 80% off. So the hotels are cheaper. I've seen some of these contracts. You can get hotels that are selling for 500 and 600 euros a night in April if you want to buy out the whole place for 80, 90 euros a night. It exists.
Mm-hmm.
Second, the labor is cheaper. And then the latter point, there's no program. Okay, there is no program.
What
There
do you
is
mean by
no
that?
30. There's no 30 counselors coming to run a
Ah,
camp with their
okay.
families. There's no mashgichim. If you're lucky, if there's one or two, there's not as much food. There's no food in the breaks. There's no big concerts. There's no big shows. There's no spending on any programming. I
Right.
mean, the list is
So
long.
it's
Their
less
goal of what they make is less.
it's
The
less
food is
luxurious.
less.
Got it.
No, it's not less luxurious. It's less because the American programs were based on Grossingers and the Concord. So all the Jews in the Northeast, they used to go to the Catskills, and what didn't they have in those hotels? In
Mm-hmm.
Europe, they used to rent a little house in the middle of nowhere, and if they had a couple of meals a day, 2 meals, it was
Yeah.
fine. So
Interesting.
which is why Americans, when they go to these programs,
Mm-hmm.
either they're happy with the less food, or they're like, "Ooh, I can't feed my kids now for 7 hours," because that
Mm-hmm.
happens. And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, there's no chicken nuggets at 2 in the afternoon somewhere. Where by me,
Yeah.
there's always chicken nuggets.
Right.
Let
So
me
so
correct,
so
let
you,
me
you
correct
mentioned.
you. Let me
No, go
correct
ahead.
you.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
Bruce.
Robert.
Not
Sure.
all European programs are like that. Okay, the ones that I operate are more
No,
on
I'm not saying,
American
but
standard.
but your
Oh,
program
here
you
we
do with the
go.
Minkowitzes, that's not a European program. It's a program in Europe that's run by Americans. I'm
Correct.
talking the guy from Israel, the guy from
Yeah.
France who just started the business. The
Yeah.
Minkowitz family and you are really an American program in Europe.
Correct.
That's what you're doing.
But
People who go to
I'll
you are
listen.
paying premium for that.
I will argue, right, that there are a ton of very, very great European programs outside Roberts, right, that are not run by Americans, that run a very great program that people come back and they are ecstatic and happy about. And I think you're right. I don't think there's anything wrong with
There's
going
nothing
there.
wrong. I would go to a
Exactly.
European
Right, right,
program if
right.
I was a customer.
It's.
I
I
don't
think
need all this food.
it's setting. I think it's just setting that expectations for the customer about the differences between an American and
One
a
second,
European program.
Donnie. I had this conversation with you previously. The deal that I can structure in a European hotel is way different than the deal I can structure in an American hotel.
Right.
Okay, so I'm not getting any. I've never had a 90 euro room rate. Okay, my room rates are American room rates. That's not where the deal is
But
made. The deal is made.
you're running a more luxurious program, though. I'm talking like the lower
Yeah.
level
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
guys in like
That's what
strange
I'm talking.
places,
That's what
like
Yes,
I'm
the
I.
talking
program
about.
in Albania.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a program in Albania. It's really cheap. I mean,
Right.
it's in Albania. The one in Montenegro, it's really cheap.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
those programs are really cheap. I saw a quote once from a program in Ukraine before the war. It was $40 a night, literally in U.S. dollars. But again, do you
So
want to go to the Carpathian Mountains? I mean, I don't. My
so
wife's
let's
from
say
Carpathian Mountains.
let's
Her
stay on
parents
this.
are. But
Yes, let's stay on this topic, but move to a subtopic within hotels. So let's talk to hotels for when you're looking at hotels, right, and you're negotiating hotels. And I don't know if you guys agree with this, but I hear in the industry from many operators, the toughest part to start a program is to actually find the hotel, find the right hotel for your program that really is going to meet all the majority of the needs of the customers, right? What are you looking for when you negotiate and you look for a hotel? How does it work with the kosher kitchen retrofitting and like some of the location trade-offs, right? Where with hotels, Robert, why don't you start with this one, and then we'll go to Bruce. But like, when you're
So Bruce,
negotiating hotels, what are you really looking for, and how are you
Bruce,
dealing with that?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've experienced the same thing I have. Number one, over the last 10 years, okay, it's almost impossible to get a good U.S. hotel that hasn't done Pesach before to do Pesach. Bruce
Yeah.
actually did that in Texas. That hotel's
Hmm.
never had a Pesach
It
program.
had,
So
it had
did.
gateways 5 years ago. I had the contract, and I didn't want to take it because of COVID. I ended up doing a COVID-friendly program because of the corridors, and I gave it to gateways. And it
Yeah.
had did a program years ago for Persians and Syrians in
Okay.
2016. But it was
Right.
under this management company. This was the first time they took me. But some
So
of the old timers were there, and they remember it.
so
Right.
very, very I'm telling you, Don, you cannot get you either you're either going to pay a ridiculous sum of money to the hotel to do the deal, or they're not interested. They're just not. The hotels do not
Or
want to do this type of
Or number
business.
three, there's a third one, which is you're lucky enough to find a place that never took it. They take
Hmm.
it, they undercharge it. They don't
Hmm.
know what they're in for because they're so eager for the big numbers and the 10-night sellout, whatever it is, and it
Right.
turns into literally pandemonium. And there are programs all over America. Every couple of years, someone gets this new place, and it's run over with damage, and the hotel didn't have enough staff, and the waiters walk out because they don't know what's coming.
It's a one
Hmm.
and
Because
done.
it's a one and done, and the hotel took it not knowing what they had
Right.
agreed
So,
to.
so you guys look for hotels every year. Both of you guys, in fact, look for hotels every year. When you guys look for hotels, you're obviously looking at the kitchen situation, the location. But talk about like how can you how do you typically find like what do you look for when you're looking for a hotel, right? And what do you think from your perspective is the most important five most important things when looking for a good property?
You want to do that one, Bruce?
Give you a bunch. I'll give you one that most people don't think about too much. Accessibility. I have to
Mm.
know there's flights. I have to know there's a lot of flights. I have to know roughly what they cost for those dates.
Yeah.
And I have to see how many destinations they serve. It is
Mm.
something that too many people do not value. If you
Mm.
can't get there, you can't book it.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to book places they can't get to.
Mm-hmm.
Screaming children, older people, they need direct flights, particularly from tri-state and other parts of the country,
Mm-hmm.
LA, Florida, then you say Chicago, Baltimore, secondary markets. But if you don't have accessibility, you can't get there. There's a lot of really beautiful hotels that have come my way over the years. There was a hotel in New Mexico that's spectacular. It's a Hyatt, and they really wanted Pesach. But there's one flight into Albuquerque, and there's one flight out, and it's a very, very modestly served market, besides that the weather's not guaranteed. And years ago, one of the operators took it, and he went bankrupt on it. I mean, he had to shut. And the main problem people had wasn't weather. It was they just simply couldn't get there. There's one plane with 170 seats or 60 seats, and that's it. And it's just no way to get to these places. So accessibility is important. Weather's important. Hotel quality is important. Kitchens important. On me, it's not so much the kitchens. It's when the hotels will let me in. If a
Right.
Mm.
hotel says you have 48 hours before, I'm not coming. I
Right.
need 5 days. I need at least my schedule of a gradual move-in is 9 days, 10 days. And that doesn't always mean getting in the hotel. It means unloading trucks, breaking down pallets,
Mm.
having a
Staging.
space to do that, staging. And the staging takes time. I need to cook 5, 6 days.
Mm.
But by day 5, I have everything else organized and pallet and set up accordingly so when the cooking starts, I'm ready to go. But a
Right.
hotel that says I'm going to give you 4 days out, we don't go.
Mm-hmm.
I
Wow.
won't be able to do it. If a
Uh-huh.
Right.
hotel says you can't walk in the building until 4 days out, you can't have space in a parking lot, put up a tent to break down your pallets, to organize your stuff, I'm not skilled enough. There
Mm-hmm.
are guys who know how to do it. I am
Mm-hmm.
not those people, and maybe Foremost Caterers, maybe Randy Zabla Oliver Shalom, maybe Randy would have had a way of doing that, but I'm honestly not skilled enough to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how, and to do it would cost an exorbitant amount of money in
Mm-hmm.
Well,
in
Bruce,
in, in the crazy labor costs just to be able to execute it.
Bruce,
Yeah.
do you do any pre-cooking?
Baking,
Just baking. No
just
stocks, no
baking.
nothing.
No, everything's made on site.
Right,
I'm
Mm-hmm.
right. So
strict about it.
the guys that have the very tight windows, Donnie, they're producing
Mm-hmm.
certain product
Mm-hmm.
before, certainly stocks, items that you can, that doesn't make a difference if you do them, whether it's 2 weeks in advance and freeze them or not, that's not going to affect it. But
Mm-hmm.
there are, if the window's too tight, that's what, a foremost would do. That's what,
Yeah.
many, many, many operators do
I
that.
So
always think
Especially,
of Randy because Randy was like a master at this kind of stuff.
yeah.
well,
Just was.
So
right.
what about staffing a program? We haven't really talked about that. How do you staff a program appropriately? Because I think like when I look at this and I hear from a ton of program operators, and they're honest with themselves. They didn't. I spoke with one recently actually. He knows he didn't staff it properly. He should have brought in more people, spent another couple $100,000 on people helping him out. But like just not even that, like rabbis, mashgiachs, children's staff, entertainment. What are some of these costs to it? How do you work that and in your economics, and how do you make sure that you have the right amount of staff across the board, right, to make it successful? Because you can't do it alone, especially when you have an 800 person, 1,000 person program. Uh, Bruce, you want to take that one?
Me? How do I staff? I
Oh,
don't
and
like
by the way,
hotel
hold on.
staff.
I'm sorry. I want to.
I use hotel. I minimally use hotel staff.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't want them. I send them out.
so Bruce,
I
wait,
give
so
them. I don't
Bruce,
want them.
one thing here before you answer this question. I don't want it to be from a Bruce the Backman's program. I want try to think about this more holistically from all
Bruce,
programs.
Donnie, we
Go
spoke about this a few weeks ago. I
Yeah.
told you, I go, the guys that rely on the hotel staff end up getting screwed. Okay, they are not, the hotel staff cannot do what we need done. No how, no way. If you want to tell me that you're dealing with a good hotel and you're using their wait staff, I get it. Okay, but once you go into that kitchen, okay, yes, you can use some of their stewards. Yes, you can use some of their, action station people. But once you need talent and high production, you better bring it. You better have your own people to rely on, or you are rolling the dice in a very, very big way.
I will say this. It's not a Bruce Backlund perspective. This is the guys like Robert and Simon and Lasco and Jeremy, like guys who are respected, solid. You give money, you don't have to lose sleep. It's not going to be a disaster. Like they're good. I like to think I'm in the same group. We really don't cut that corner. I'm petrified of this. When
Mm-hmm.
I see a guy advertising Pesach produced by the chefs of this hotel, and they say just their chefs, it's literally like a lottery ticket. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it'll work.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are it won't. They won't
Mm-hmm.
be able to keep up with the volume. They won't be able to keep up with the butchering. They won't be
Mm-hmm.
able to keep up with the hours. And what ends up happening is because they can, they call in sick. And then all of a sudden, you're missing your 10 guys down in the kitchen because like guys like, I'm sick
So
today. I can't do this. It's like the
Yeah,
air traffic control.
So you,
They're
so
gone.
you, so that's a very important piece. So you would basically recommend customers that are looking for a Passover program to really look into making sure these programs potentially bring in their own staff
Donnie,
in
Donnie.
some
There's
shape
no
or form. Is that hold on, Bruce? Is that an accurate statement or
I
no?
would say that the most important question you could ever ask is who's cooking the food.
Who's cooking the food? Okay.
And if they tell you that they're relying on the Hyatt Hotel in who knows where, and they're going to cook it, and you're going
Yeah.
to give them the menus,
Yeah.
I mean, now I have friends in Mexico who tell me that the Mexican labor is better than the American labor, and they're
Hmm.
able to speak a Berg. I know that he relies heavily on Mexican labor to do things, and he tries not. So he's probably doing a bit of a hybrid, but he's bringing an army of people from New York
Hmm. Yeah.
and from Israel, an
Right.
army.
Well, what
But I
about?
know that in Mexico
Donnie.
the labor's cheap, so
Donnie,
he can.
you're asking the guests to delve into minutia that there's no way that they're going to delve into. You have to go
Why
with,
not? Why
because
not?
they're okay.
A
So you're
smart
going to
listen.
call. So you're going to
Listen.
call
The whole
Donnie.
point. The whole point of what we do is to make sure the guests are asking the right questions. If
I
they
get it,
don't, that's
but
not a. That's not a. That's not a
you're,
wrong. question to ask. A guest should
You're
ask this,
starting.
right?
You're starting with. Listen, the number one thing is who is operating the program? Who's the operator? Okay. You can't tell a guest, oh, the Hyatt in New Mexico. Okay. Who's doing your cooking? So no operator is going to say, oh, they're exclusively, I'm relying on the hotel 100%. No one's ever going to say that, and no one's ever going to do that. Okay. Now, are
Wait,
you
wait,
relying?
hold on a second. Why wouldn't an operator say that if that's the truth? You're
I
saying
I
you're
get the
saying they
question
lie?
all the time about
Okay.
who's your
Yeah.
caterer, and we always
Yeah.
tell them, I mean, I'm
I
honest, I
get
don't
the
really have a
I get the
caterer.
que-
I'm the caterer, and you either trust
I
me or you don't.
I get the question all the time in terms of like who's catering or who's doing the thing. They need
Catering.
to ask that question. That's a very important question to ask.
Okay,
I'm a
Donnie.
food and beverage guy. I cater myself more than most other guys would, but the team I built is a mix of guys who work for all the top caterers in New York all year. And I have an arm, guys I picked up, some of them for 15 years. My
Donnie,
pastry guy, my this guy, my that guy.
Yeah.
who the caterer is, that's one question. But a
Mhm.
caterer also could be relying on
Mhm.
a ton of hotel people. Okay. It's always,
Ru-
any operator is always going to say it's a combination of the hotel and we also bring in our own. Both.
Robert, you ever use Hotel Garmages? It's one of the few places that I'm okay to use them.
I never, okay, so in all my operations, okay, my back of the house is
Hmm.
100% brought in. 100%. Whether or
So
not when I use that terminology, Bruce, whether or not I take there's a couple of chefs that want to run some action stations for me, I get it, no problem. But I'm bringing in an army into every hotel.
So I bring an army in, but then there are jobs I only need for the night, which I don't want to bring somebody. A classic
Right.
example is making the Seder plates. And I always hire Hotel Garmages for many years. We try to
Right.
make Seder plates because it's easy, it's repetitive, it's not arduous, and
Right.
it saves me a guy who I don't need the morning after because
Yeah.
it's
Right.
something I'm only doing
So
twice. So
so let's
Okay.
sometimes
go.
we use hotel staff for jobs we know they can do.
Correct.
Bartending, action stations,
Correct.
um, but that's it. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
you really can't rely on these people to like spice the food. I
Right.
No, it's
mean,
not to spice the
they
food.
don't
It's
know how.
production. Even
So
action stations, Bruce, is very
Yeah.
difficult to rely on the hotel because they can't carve. You have to teach them. They're still not used to the volume, so it's even hard to use them for action stations. But if you have
Bartenders
enough,
is the best,
so
yeah,
let's
bartender,
move it.
yeah,
We have 10
and
to
they're
15
good at
minutes.
it.
We have 10
yeah.
to 50 minutes here, guys. I want to make sure we cover off on two more topics, important topics. So the next topic I want to kind of move towards is the topic around insurance, cancellations, and force majeure. Obviously, we don't see that often, but insurance, cancellations, and force majeure. So what let a lot of people, some people take insurance, some people don't take insurance. When it comes to cancellations, sometimes I want to talk to cancellations from a consumer standpoint. They have to cancel what happens, and also cancellations of a program. Program may cancel. What typically happens? What should guests know before signing? What are the expectations guests should know before signing? I know it depends on the program, but let's say in general. And do you think insurance is a good method to use these days for Passover programs? Robert, we can start with you, and then move.
Okay. So for the guests, I 100%. Um, we. I'm not even going to use the word suggest. We push them to take out insurance.
Why?
Okay.
Why?
Because Bruce, I'm calling you now Bruce, Donnie,
Call whatever, it's fine.
invariably, okay, there's always tragedies around Yontif. I'm not even talking about just Pesach. You always hear someone got sick before Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, blah, 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 blah. Pesach is 10 days. Okay. If you're a couple and you're just two people and your bill is $17,000, $18,000 and you want to roll the dice, gay gesundheit, hey, roll the dice. But if you have a big bill, you have $100,000 bill, okay, and you don't take out cancellation insurance, I think that's ridiculous. Okay. It's a lot of money. Okay. Now, you have to know your family. Okay, there are families that, oh, one, if the patriarch gets sick, okay,
Mhm.
and can't make it, the whole family is going to cancel.
Yeah.
Okay, and then there are some families that say, okay, so if my parents can't come, okay, that's one thing, but the rest of the party is going to come.
Mm.
Every family's different, and every family has to make their own decision, but not to cover yourself. And by the way, Bruce, it's not just
Bruce
the,
left.
I'm sorry, Donnie, it's not just the program cost. You have airfare. You have a lot of other costs that get covered with cancellation insurance.
Are you able to is there any insurance out there that you're able to cover, a canceling of a program, right? Because that's, to me, at least what I hear from consumers out there, from the guests, is that, yeah, listen, I know I'm going, yes, if I get sick, whatever. But
Okay,
the
so
thing
they
is,
have
if a
done.
program cancels, is there insurance to say, hey, you know what, I can get my money back on that?
So now you're going on the if the operator cancel, not if the guest cancels.
Yeah, yeah. So let's
Okay.
move to the other
So
side. What if
there's
the operator cancels
so so they have today. It's expensive, but they have today cancel for any reason insurance. Okay.
yeah,
So you could take out, as a customer, you could take out cancel for any reason insurance. Now,
yeah,
if the operator cancels, okay, then I assume that you could call the insurance company and say, I have to cancel.
yeah.
I'm not going on the program. So you're covered.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't know. I don't know that minutia.
Okay.
Okay. They don't, it's for any reason. It's not like you have to prove somebody hospitalization or anything like that. There's cancel for any reason. And that's, I can't, the program's not happening.
Yeah.
That's a reason. So you
Yep.
can't put that out. And then there's different criteria of insurance. So,
Mhm.
you have to know what your risk is and what's your appetite. What are you willing to do? Maybe, your family is all, extremely healthy. There's no issues. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but I always recommend people, because Donnie, as somebody that operates 6 hotels, I'm always getting the call. Always.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're saying to me, Robert, oh my God, my husband had to be hospitalized. Oh my God, I couldn't leave my parent, da 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 da. And the first question out of my mouth is, I really hope you took out cancellation insurance.
Mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
You can't put the achrayas, if everybody that needed to cancel, in the last month, call, or 3 weeks, if I had to refund everybody 100%, I'd be out of business.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I cannot afford to just hand out, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars back. It just
Yeah.
doesn't. The mathematics don't work. So, the responsibility. Same thing on a cruise ship. Same thing on, in airplanes. In there are a lot of hotels today. Forget even the ones that are doing Pesach programs and food operations, but at a certain date, you're guaranteed.
Yeah.
You're guaranteed, and if you have to cancel, you cancel, and that's why everybody knows today. There's cancellation insurance for a reason.
Yeah.
It's not baloney.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we have 5 minutes here, trying to get Bruce back in here, but not sure what's going on, why this isn't working here. But let's keep moving to the last question. If he's able to join, great. The last question I have for you, Robert, and really kind of like what people want to know. So let's think about this more holistically from like 120 Pesach programs worldwide. How do programs differentiate themselves? Right? How do they differentiate themselves from branding, from niche positioning? Are there loyalty programs, which I know there are, in terms of incentives, referral networks? How do programs differentiate themselves, and across the board, right? What are some key ways to differentiate, your from a program perspective?
From competition, you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's 120 programs. How does one program
Oh, look.
who's in Florida differentiate them from another program in Florida? Or how does one program in America differentiate from another program in America? How does
So,
that how does that
so
work?
first things, guests pick a destination of where they want to go. That's the bottom line. That's the first criteria. Where do I want to spend? Where does my family want to spend Pesach? So there's the destination. Obviously, there's the operator that comes into play. Have you been a guest of mine? Were you there at one of my programs last year? Were you there 5 years ago? Were you at a program, you know, in Europe of mine 6 years? We have a we have a obviously a database that's very, very big that people move around. So it's really it's the destination, it's the operator, it is price becomes a factor. If you're not a $25,000, a couple, well, let's go the reverse. If you're in the market of 15,000, 18,000 a couple, there are programs that you're not going to call. I mean, you're differentiating right then and there. There are programs
Mhm.
that are now in the mid 20s. Thank God. I mean, I'm not talking about now suites and things. I'm just talking about on a regular room basis. Thank God I don't need to be in that in that segment of the market.
Mhm.
I'm I can't say it's called a value play, but I'm priced, sometimes moderately compared to some of the other programs, and that's what differentiates. It's price. Everybody today, programs are all advertising their entertainment and their speakers, and we're all in that same boat. So everybody has that. No one's going to a hotel because of a speaker or because of a show. They're going for the whole package. So,
Well, that's part of it, right? We talked about this last time and time before. I think part of the reasons why people go away outside to not be able, not they don't want to cook and clean, they want to get away and to enjoy. Part of it is speaker, part of it is food, part of it is experience, part of it is people going on the program, the location, the hotel. Um, I think, my view on differentiation of programs is definitely, have they done it before, right? I think that's a key element. Have they run a successful program in the past? I think it's very difficult to break into this industry because many people, they want to know that when they throw the money into it, they know what they're going to get, and they want to know that they're going to get, at least, decent. They don't want to take that risk
but
at
Donnie,
this point in time.
you're making it very simplistic. Have they run a successful program in the past? That statement right there is who cares if they ran a program 2 years ago that was successful? If they're new to the marketplace, it doesn't make a difference if their program was successful in a different location,
It
last year, two
does.
years ago, or 3 years
No,
ago.
I disagree. I
It, it,
disagree. I think if you run a successful program in the past and you're picking up a new hotel, I think it sheds light on the ability to run a successful program at this new hotel.
Donnie,
Um,
the
I'm
prime
not saying
example.
it could be,
The prime,
you're going to have issues, right, with the new property. Don't get me wrong, but if you've run a successful program and you're a good operator, the likelihood of
Donnie,
you running another successful program is higher than the average.
no, because
Tell me why.
prime example, you had a program. I'm not even going to say where, what, when. Okay, this year. Okay, there was success. He ran a successful program 2 years ago. Okay, people loved it. Okay, but guess what?
Oh,
There we
This
go.
year, this year was a
Hey, Bruce.
major problematic pro. It was a major problematic program. So, there's so many
But
that's
I'll tell you something, okay? Because I'm doing this a long time as well. That is a little bit of an anomaly. I'll say, the majority of the time, at least that what I've seen in the industry today, people who've run programs in the past who've changed hotels and maybe taken a year off and then run another program. Statistically, and this is just statistics. This is just kind of the industry, right? They've run a successful program. Yeah, does it happen where they that the next year, the 2 years later they don't run? Yeah, and it happened this year, by the way. It did. You're
Donnie.
absolutely right, but it's
Was there
not a
success?
likely. It's not a
the,
likely
the,
scenario.
the, the, the,
Donnie,
the,
Bruce,
there's
was
a
there
what do you
lot
think?
of
successful?
guys.
Donnie, was
Bruce.
there successful program? Was there successful program for 200 people, and now they're running an 800-person program? Okay,
No,
it makes a
it depends. I mean,
difference.
we've seen programs that have run similar number of people. We've seen programs that have run less, and we've seen run more. I think what I'm just referring
I,
to is
I,
the
I
overall.
can,
Go ahead, Bruce.
in all honesty, I went from a 350 person program to 1,100 people about 12 years ago, and that was a bad year. It wasn't a disaster, it just wasn't a good year. But that year I learned everything because all the mistakes I made I've never really repeated.
And it didn't run.
But
It didn't run you out of business, Bruce. I mean, you're still in
well,
business,
it
right?
didn't run me out of business because it wasn't a disaster where people didn't have stuff. I had some labor issues. I had waiters who went on strike because at the time I was under the impression, based I'm not going to use names, that I had the amount of labor that I would proportionally I would use on a smaller program would be able to handle a larger program. And I adjusted the ratio accordingly, and it didn't work. And when I say it didn't work, did people not get food? No. Did people wait a long time? Yes. Were buffets set on time? Not really. Nothing, it wasn't a disaster. It just wasn't the standard that I'm known
Well,
for. Uh,
that's fair.
but
Right.
That's
but at the
fair.
same time, I could tell you, I spoke to another program operator, and he saw that I made comments where I was very nice towards these people in Morocco because I don't know them. I don't want to criticize them. I don't know what happened. There could have been an excuse for everything. But he said to me, he said, you know what? After the Seder's, I thought I was out of matzah. I said, okay. He says, and I sent to New York, and I flew in for $4,000 more matzah, and I never touched a box of it. You know why? Because I have to. Because I have to be covered, and I can't run out of matzah. I'm a frum program. I don't have a choice. These people knew they didn't have matzah the day before. They had a responsibility to figure it out. If that meant a guy flying in from Paris on a plane and checking in, because you're allowed to check in business class, 250 pounds, just enough to get through the Seder's, I mean, they should have done that because they took the people's money. And I hate to tell you, you know, in business, you don't always make money. But once you take people's money, you kind of have to execute something.
hundred
And,
percent.
and when you don't, it's
Bruce.
not cool to blame everybody.
Bruce, the problem with that one was they kept on telling him the container's going to be released. The container's going to be released. So, whatever.
Yeah,
Listen,
but I heard that also this year with the pizza oven. My pizza oven wasn't released. I had a pizza station. Kids are waiting for pizza. I drove into Houston. I went to a commercial restaurant place, and I bought a pizza oven even though I knew that the next day I'd have mine because
Yeah.
people wanted
Look,
it, and that's the business.
I think the point that we're making here, I think overall versus talking about specific programs, here is that every year is different. When you take on a new hotel, you're definitely going to have developed new challenges around the hotel, and you're right, it may not be successful. There have been programs that have changed hotels that have been successful, right? So I think it all depends on the program and the operator, and we'll leave it at that. I think
I'm not criticizing them.
I
I
know.
believe that the container was probably to be released. But the day before, when they saw trouble, I mean, it's a 3-hour flight from Paris. I think some of them were French. I mean, you could have found a way to get at least enough matzah to get through the Seder's. I
No.
mean, if you watch tight, you could. There's ways to do this. I'm not
yeah.
saying it's easy. I'm not saying I want to do it. It's not money I want to spend. It's like a parking ticket.
Right. All right. So we're at the 45-minute mark. And Bruce, we're losing you again here with some service issues here. So I don't know if you can hear us. But let's close. By if you were again, consumers are watching this. They will watch this. They're trying to learn more about the industry. This has been great. We will have more sessions on this. But I think the final question I have for each of you is, what are some things that you can tell consumers about, I guess the most difficult thing about running a program, if you were to sum it all up, and what feedback and advice can you give a consumer to when looking for a program, understanding that it's not as easy as you think running a Passover program. You start from right after Pesach. It's a 11, 12 month a training ground, and it's a lot of work. So what feedback can you give, advice can you give to people looking for a program to kind of sum this all up, this session around the business?
Go ahead, Bruce.
Me? What could I sum up? You have to go with people that have references. You need references. We give references. I have guests who've been to me and I ask them, would you like references? And we have guests who agree to give references. And we tell people if they know someone who's been to us, speak to them without asking. If they like the program, they don't like the program. In other words, there's nothing to hide. When you come here, whatever I tell you better be true, because if it's not, it's just going to be a headache for me. And
Yeah,
I don't have the capacity to deal with people who are angry all day. It's not my strong suit. So if people are not happy, I would honestly, in many cases, rather they chose a program that's more suitable to their needs.
I agree.
We
Yeah,
don't. I'd love. It's great to have money. It's great to make bookings. But if you're going to book a family who's going to come there and just be miserable from the beginning to the end,
Right.
then maybe you're saving yourself and them a lot of trouble by them not coming. I mean, on a religious level, it could be on the quality of the hotel. If I'm in the hotel I'm in now is a nice place, but it's not the Four Seasons. And we tell people it's a very nice hotel, but it's not the Four Seasons. So if you're looking for the Four Seasons, this is not the hotel for you. If you're looking for something great for your kids, for your families, a lot to do, it's fantastic. Every room's a suite, fantastic. But you have to know what you're getting. I don't want you to come here and ask why there's not twice daily housekeeping, because it's not happening. I'm not saying it can't be arranged for an additional cost, but this is not the program. This is not what we do. This is not what I am. And being honest with them, and you also want to go to somebody who's not all things to all people. When you're booking, he can't tell everybody it's the super modern, there's mixed swimming on Shabbos, and then another guy, it's black hat like Lakewood, all out of the same breath. I mean, if a guy does that, and you know he's doing it because you have friends who've called, then you should be careful,
yeah.
because he's likely telling you a lot of stuff that aren't true
I
beyond
think
that.
I think you're spot on. I think review. Look, it's the reason why Passover Listings does what we do. Not to plug us in any way, but reviews are important. References, ask the program. There, again, we there's tons of people that speak about the program reviews. Obviously, ask the questions you need to ask to get what you need, and based on your requirements. Robert, summing it up, what advice would you give consumers? Um,
Bruce, I don't know whether it was the first or second interview that Donnie did with me, but I told the crowd that's listening that you don't even have to ask what type of crowd it is, because if you have a program that's promoting well stock-based medrash, Cholav Yisroel, non-gebrachts, Pirchei, and Beno style day camp, it's a right-wing program. End of story. And if you have it on the flip side, that yes, we have mixed swimming and we have separate swimming and we have both, and when you're dealing with 1,000-person crowd, Bruce, I don't have to tell you, you're getting everybody. That's just the way it is.
Yes, absolutely. And I cater to everybody. But if
Right.
you're looking for something, in my ads, I'm very careful to put a picture of a female. If I have a female speaker, I put her in the ad. A frum woman, Charlene Amanoff's been with me the last few years. And the reason I put her in is because I'm telling a client, we are frum, but we are not Lakewood. It's
Right.
not a Lakewood program. That doesn't mean if you're from Lakewood you'll be
I like
uncomfortable.
I
But
like
I
that.
will put a picture of a woman in the ad,
I
and
like that.
Ami Magazine doesn't get my ad because they insist I take her out. And
Right.
we're just not that crowd.
Right.
That said, I also wouldn't, my program has a base medrash. My program is Chalav Yisrael. But it's really meant, there's a line that I hug. I'm to the right of I'm to the right of going to, I don't know, a lot of programs, and then I'm to the left of a lot of programs. I'm in this unusual sweet spot, which
Hmm.
I've developed for myself. But
Listen,
at the same time, we don't want a guy coming there. I had a guy call me this year, and he says, "What do you do about the women when they're not sneeze?" Honestly, he called me, asked me the question. I
I
said,
know.
"What do you mean?" He said, "When the Lubavitch women come and they're not dressed properly, how do you handle it?" Now, I know of black hat programs where that stuff is handled, where somebody will tell somebody, by the way, that's not
Yep,
appropriate.
that's right.
And in my program, we would never, and I tell people, nobody mixed swims on Shabbos or Yom Tiv, but I don't close the pools. And they're like, I said, I don't make pool rules, but I'm telling you who the crowd is, so you should
Hmm.
know. And on
Hmm.
Yom Tif, in my program, I think in the main pool area, I think I saw 2 or 3 people, and they were all under the age of 4. I'm
Yeah,
saying
the kids.
it's not my crowd. That said, in some programs, if a 4-year-old goes in the pool on Shabbos or on Yom Tif, somebody will come and speak to somebody about it.
Right.
I know that because I've worked on those programs before, And I've seen somebody who felt it was their job to do that because
Yeah.
this is Shabbos, this is this, and we don't do this, and it's not, it's pasnish, and all the rest of it. So we're honest with people. And, yes, every program today is a mix. I have people who are not religious, and I have people wearing bekishes. I have the range. But you go where what you're looking for. I'm a Chalav Yisrael program. If I run out of milk, I'll send to New York for milk. I know that if you're in a very modern program, they can rely on the local milk if they run out, because 99.9% of the guests are totally fine with it, because there's
Hmm.
But
nothing wrong
Bruce,
with it. It's
in
OUD.
today's in today's day and age, even very modern Orthodox programs, the dairy is going to be Chalav Yisrael. So it always is now.
No, but after Pesach, I know programs where they're going to
Oh,
Dunkin' Donuts to buy things and stuff. Like we wouldn't do that.
okay.
Like that's like I'm keeping that standard all the way through. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with it. OUD is kosher. We're not talking about not kosher food.
Right,
But
of course.
in my program, I would have to send to New York for milk.
Hmm.
Like which is why I overbuy and freeze a pallet every year just in case something turns. I let it
Right.
sit there. I just because I can't. The cost of going to New York to get more milk is so prohibitive. I'd rather just overbuy a pallet and put it in the freezer.
So, Bruce, if a guest calls me up and says, "What do you do about a guest not being sneezed or everything?" I say, "What do you do when you're in the Citadel Hotel in Jerusalem and the guest isn't sneezed? What do you do when you're over in here and there?" I mean, I don't even understand the question, quite honestly. It's like so ridiculous
I
to me.
got the question. The client was adamant, and I told him, I
The
gave
que-
him names of other programs. I said,
Yeah.
listen, this is probably not the
Listen,
right place for you,
the
and I
the
made two recommendations.
the question is that these people, they obviously want to have a much more, religious, not seeing bikinis coming into the dining room or at the pool,
Bruce, one second.
and and they want to know.
Nobody has modern people in the
Bonnie, that's
dining room.
ridiculous. That's a ridiculous statement.
Nobody has modern people. Nobody has people coming to the dining room in bathing suits on
Well,
Yom
Absolutely
Tov.
not.
It's unheard of.
that
Me,
That's a
that's
myth.
it's
Donnie,
not a myth, by the way.
Donnie, Donnie.
Well,
Me, okay.
programs I've been to, I've never seen it.
Right.
So
Programs I've been to, I've seen it. Just to
what
say that.
Donnie's
But
what
but
Donnie's
listen,
what Donnie's referring to
I'm
is like a Syrian program on a Caribbean
what
island.
what
That
I'm saying, what I'm my point is not that, guys. My point is that the statement that you guys are referring to are people who are more religious that want to see if the program operator is going to do something about it. That's my point. And I think to your point is yes,
we won't.
you can't do anything about it. So that's that,
We won't.
guys.
But I also know that if a person wants to I mean, at some point, I had a lady years ago. She went swimming in the pool on Yom Tif, and it was a small pool, and everybody was around the pool, and she wore a bathing suit, and she was not from, her kids were, and she was 80. And she got out of the pool, she swam one lap, and she told me, why did I do that? I feel crazy. She says, I did it because I wanted to show that this is who I am. I said, you could show who you are and go to the indoor pool where I cover the windows and nobody has to see you. She says, I should have, but I wanted to. I said, I understand. I'm not mad at you for it. And I said, we're not telling you not to do it, but she was ashamed. And I'm like, don't be ashamed. I'm just saying, like, for comfort, we have an indoor pool where you can go and you want to swim on Yom Tif, with pleasure. I don't get involved in these things.
Yeah.
But at some point, you
Yeah.
know the crowd. If there's a lot of people who are in swimsuits on Yom Tif, then it'll lead other people to be in swimsuits on Yom Tif.
So I'm going to sum it up here, guys. This has been an hour conversation. This has been great conversation, by the way. I think probably one of our best sessions yet. So thank you both for joining. This is
I
awesome. Thanks,
appreciate
Bruce,
it.
for jumping on. This is session 3 of many. Guys, this has been great. We talked all about many different topics in here around behind the scenes of running a Pesach program. We have a next session next week, session 4 of many. Insider advice and future trends. What guests and the industry needs to know: how to evaluate and compare programs, hidden costs guests don't expect, destination trends, technology and the future of booking, and where the market is headed. We're going to have that next week. Maybe we'll include some new programs next week, maybe from international side. We've gotten some hits on people requesting, hey, bring some international folks into the mix here. I appreciate that, guys. Thanks
By
for
the
joining
way,
so
on the
much.
international programs, I just want to add thing before you step out. There are good international programs.
Absolutely.
It's just people who go there. I had a friend come to my house this week, and he said he went to one of these programs in Greece. I said, how was it? He said it was better 3 years ago. The food this year was not as consistent. I said, were you happy? He's like, yeah, we don't need the food. We're happy. We like the destination. We like the touring. We enjoyed it. But I mean, in a European program, beyond the fact that a lot of them, I don't know how their numbers were, it's not the same volume of anything. I
Right.
mean,
Absolutely.
it's just not. It's not the same product. And there's a lot of reasons for it, but it is not. And a lot of the clients who are going to those programs know that. The
Yeah.
scary part is when they go there and they think they're getting the leisure time program at PGA, and they're not. They're not getting
I get it.
that. They're not getting.
I'll leave it with this. The people that go, at least what we've heard, the people that go away for the European programs, they're going for the adventure. They're going for the actual location. That's really the key. They don't care about the food as much. They don't care about the entertainment. They don't care about those things. They care about going to see the sights of Italy, see the sights of Albania, go into the Jewish, markets. That's why they go away, which makes sense. I mean, I get it. If I was going away
My
to
aunt went to
France,
one of these luxury programs this year in Europe, which is amongst the most expensive on, maybe the most expensive. Let's say outside of the leisure time program that Robert does with Minkowitz, it's a very expensive, exclusive program. And she called me day 3. There's nothing to eat. There's 6-hour breaks between meals. She said, if you come down late for breakfast, there's no more smoked salmon. They never replenish anything. Like, believe me, they're counting everything. I'm not criticizing him for it because she said most people were happy to be there. But she, who's used to going to Israel and being at the Waldorf, she was disappointed, and she paid about the same amount of money.
yeah, I don't think that's a standard thing to, across the board. I think that's unfortunate, right? A lot of people. And again, there's thousands of people that go away on these Passover programs in Europe. There's a lot of Passover programs in Europe, and they're more, common. A lot of people, they run good ships, but they're different, like you said. They're
They
very
do, but
different.
it's not
You
the
got to
same
set
product.
you exactly. You got to set expectations from early on, which hopefully these program operators do. Thankfully, there's a lot of stuff out there in terms of reviews and people kind of understanding. Guys, we got to stop. This has been
All right.
great.
Thank
I
you, Robert.
appreciate it.
Nice to
We'll
see
talk
you.
to you soon.
Same
Thank
here,
you, guys.
Bruce.
Take
All
care.
the best. Take care.
All the
Thanks,
best.
Tommy.
You
Bye-bye.
guys.